So I call this the Maricopa County Phoenix summer housing update. It's a summer housing update because in terms of the real estate market, it's summer. So we will go ahead and let me turn on my clicker. All right, so I'm going to start with some fun photos. I always do, just to bring a little levity before we dive into all the economics. And so let's see. Everyone in real estate watching mortgage rates, totally get it. This is me all the time. My emotional support dog after his first week in real estate with me. And buyers, I know they already have 10 offers, but let's start at $10,000 below asking. Oh, honey, no. We all know those hot price ranges and those hot properties that come on. This is just staging gone bad. Think it's better just not to stage. I'll just stay in the market until I get my price. That seems appropriate for where the direction of the market right now. So when your seller refuses to lower the price after 65 days with no showings and no offers, help me help you. And this is an MLS listing. I like taking MLS listings and poking fun at our industry because these are downloaded from the MLS, goes out to the internet, and then everybody gets to see them and judge if they want to look at the property. And based upon this, they need to start over with the kitchen. This is right in my backyard. I'm in Orange County, California, and this is, you can see it says Sierra MLS in the bottom right-hand corner because it is from the MLS. It was a home in Mission Viejo that burnt down and was a total fire sale. This was the main picture of the house. You could actually catch it on all the on Zillow and everywhere else. And this is what more of the pictures look like inside of the house. Many agents have asked, does it come with the car? And absolutely, it comes with the car. And this is, if I am in a big room and just everybody looks at it, pretty soon somebody comes up with sunken tub. We're really good at describing things. So sunken tub sounds like an upgrade. Don't know if this is quite an upgrade, especially on a Friday or Saturday night after going out. So this tells us that we take way too many pictures of our properties. And this is one of those pictures where, holy smokes, maybe we should either take down the fan or not take the picture because I subtract from value when I see something like this. Speaking of subtracting from value, when I see this, I definitely think, oh my gosh, how are we going to tackle this? And I couldn't imagine even sitting up upon that throne. So I don't know what they're thinking when they designed this. If you're as old as me and have been in the industry for as long as I have, yes, this is the way that we used to search for homes. It was called the Multiple Listing Service book. There's an MLS book. And this was desk copies. That means it was the office copy. Everybody got one. And on the right hand, and it came out once a month. Every other week, you got an insert. So you can imagine coming on the market, you actually needed to go to meetings in order for people to even know that you had a property that just hit the market. That middle picture is, of course, a map. That was the Thomas guide that we used to use because I got into the business in 1991. This is when we started doing it. And then very quickly it became one of those, dial-up things that we used to dial up and search. The right-hand side is what the MLS book looked like in the inside. So let me give you my introduction. I am a quantitative economics and decision sciences major from UC San Diego. That's right there in La Jolla. Not a bad place to go to school. 33 years in business. So third of a century. Orange County native, Cap Valley High School grad. That is 9 kids. I do have 9 kids. And I brought mine. She brought hers. I adopted hers because she had hers all the time. And she adopted mine because I had them all the time. And then we had this guy, Zeke. He is 6, just about to graduate from kindergarten. He's with a Montessori, so they're on a later school system. And then this kid in the middle right-hand side graduated from Washington State University a year ago and came to work for us, which is pretty fantastic. He's one of 2 kids that I know will be working for me. The one in the upper left, she will be working for me as well. And then we have this gal. She is our oldest, and she is married and brought us our latest edition. This is Rowan. She is 7 months old. It's a lot of fun being a grandpa. Although I call myself a pop because I still have Zeke who calls me dad, and the two of them in the room are going to confuse people when one's calling me grandpa and the other one's calling me dad. So we've been all over the press, from the Financial Times of London to the New York Times, everywhere in between. Our company's reports on housing. It's your local real estate snapshot. And we are celebrating our 20th year. And we're about delivering the power and strength of data, especially over these last few years. It's been very hard to maneuver because these markets have been so crazy, from really hot COVID markets to interest rates dialing up like crazy to no homes on the market. So many different facets of our overall marketplace. So we're trying to cut through all of the noise that is out there. There's way too much noise. If we don't deliver the facts and data, they're going to go to the internet and they're going to get lost, because anything they're looking for is there. If they want to crash in home values, there are YouTube sites, TikToks, Instagram channels that are all devoted to talking about the end of real estate and how everything's going to come, crumbling down. So we're trying to cut through all that noise. We don't focus that much on closed sales data. We do include it in our reports, but we don't really talk that much about it unless there's something major that we need to talk about with the closed sales data, because that's really a reflection of the past. You can't really set expectations based upon what's already occurred. Instead, we're looking through the windshield, much bigger than the rearview mirror, and we're focused on supply and demand. Supply is the available number of homes to show your buyers today, and demand is just a snapshot of pending sales activity. We look at the last 30 days of pending sales activity, and from supply and demand, we get what we call expected market time. It's not days on market. I hate the statistic days on market, always have. I got rid of it in the 90s, and it still is skewed to the low side, especially closed sales data. A lot of people enter zero as they just place it in there as a comparable sell. It comes in as zero, so your averages and medians will be artificially low. People place their home on the market, pull it off, put it back on. Cumulatively, we know it's been on the market for longer, so that doesn't really quite tell the story. So our expected market time is based upon supply and demand. And when the number of available homes changes abruptly or pending sales changes abruptly, we can actually tell the speed of the market based upon that. And it really, I can dial in any marketplace and look at those two statistics and be able to tell you the speed of the overall market. And our reports are used for buyer-seller consultations, to get price reductions, to get buyers off the fence, and stop talking about the ridiculous things they're talking about, crashes and so on. And then we're closing more transactions by properly setting expectations. And our reports dot all over SoCal. We added Ventura last year as well as the Bay Area. So we encompass a lot of California, and then we just branched off to Clark County, Las Vegas, and Maricopa, Phoenix. And that was done this year in May. So this is a brand new report, which is why you've not heard of us before. You're going to think, is this like the Cromford report? It is not like the Cromford report, different for a variety of reasons. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. We're not just about data. We're about explaining what's going on in the marketplace in layman's terms so people understand it. And that's the way our reports kind of read. These are some of the reports so far this year. All markets had a powerful beginning. It was stronger at the start of this year than last year at this at the same time at the start of the year. So it looked like a real powerful beginning. We had 6.5% interest rates. Everything felt really like it was going to be a different year for 2024. And then we saw green shoots, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Then the rate migration. So we saw interest rates move from 6.5 to 7. And then, of course, in April, made their way all the way up to 7.5. It was this migration upward. And the time is now. I actually wrote this report a year ago, rewrote it again in this year, because we still absolutely firmly believe that right now is a good time to purchase. If you wait down the road, you're going to get burned because you're going to be competing like crazy as a buyer as rates drop. So we'll discuss that too. A climbing inventory. So inventory has been slowly climbing, which is different from last year, because last year, from the start of the year until about April, in some markets like Clark County, Vegas, all the way till June, kept on going down. Not normal. The temperature of the market, we're able to tell the temperature of the market based upon where supply and demand is. And we talked about it for each of the marketplaces that we cover. Starter home squeeze. This is the entry level starter homes. We're not placing enough of these people on the market. And the higher interest rates are, the more these people will not place their homes on the market until interest rates come down, so that it allows them to trade in their starter home for something else. So there's been a squeeze in the starter home arena, and everybody kind of knows it, feels it, and it's a real thing that's going on that we were able to show with data. More choices. This is one that came out a couple of weeks ago. This is the most recent report that you'll get when you subscribe, and it's in line with this green shoots that we're going to talk about a little bit more. There are more choices, more homes coming on the market than last year, which is good news, which is making a big difference. This is why there are so many. There are these headlines right now that talk about that the buyers are refusing to buy right now. That's not true. We have actually the same number of buyers as last year, so the numbers are almost identical because demand is the same. It's just that now that there are more homes coming on the market, we're getting an accumulation of homes. So we need rates to come down in order for that accumulation to come down. But there aren't buyers that are saying, you know what, now that they're so expensive, we're not purchasing, because we're still closing lots of transactions. That's just a ridiculous narrative that's out there, which is why I actually did a YouTube article on it last week. We also, actually, this is the most recent one that came out, Busting Myths. This is the one that everybody will get when you subscribe. So Busting Myths, this talks about just the number of things that people talk about on the internet, and we're just telling people how there's not going to be a bubble, not going to be a crash, not a wave of foreclosures. The most recent one that actually came out for along here, the coast in California, and then next week will be Maricopa and Maricopa, Phoenix. This is called Pricing Matters. Actually take a look at price reductions and show that the longer you, the more that you reduce the price, the less that you're going to net. Also, the longer you're on the market, the less you're going to net. So this is a really important topic. I typically bring it in like October, November, but because the market has been accumulating extra homes on the market, it allowed us to do this now. And it really does help illustrate what's going on, that really pricing is super duper important, and explains why. So Reports on Housing, it's your local real estate snapshot. This is where you go to subscribe. So you go to reportsonhousing.com. You'll have the ability to subscribe. We've actually have not changed our subscription rate. It's still $15 per month or $150 per year. It's been that way since 2017. So it's inexpensive on purpose, so that you'll skip Starbucks, get the report, make a difference in your business. We have close to 2,000 subscribers alone in Orange County, because I've been doing it for as long as we have. And in Phoenix, Maricopa, we have about 20. So that we just got started. So if you, when you subscribe, you will have a differentiator that nobody else has in a time where we're leveling up on the buyer side of the transactions. We need to actually show that we have more, that we have a solid value proposition, and articulate what's going on to be a difference maker for our buyers. So you use the coupon code ROC for a free month. And you know what? Come to think of it, I need to add this. I think I did. We'll have to double check, but if I didn't, I'll have it by the end of this meeting. ROC, you go into reportsonhousing.com, enter in ROC, and you will get a free month. So just go to reportsonhousing.com to subscribe. I am a complete data nerd, data junkie. I've already listened to a podcast this morning. I got up really early and listened to some great stuff on what happened last week in the economy. And we follow an economic model. It's called a progression model because it's constantly changing. There are new data points on a weekly basis. this week included. This is a very, very important week for mortgage rates, which means, and a lot of data points, which means we should be tuning into this stuff because this will make a difference for our buyers. So that's why we tune into this stuff. And I'll teach you really fast how to properly follow it, what to follow, and then just not listen to the rest of the nonsense that's out there. So I look at myself as a professor, a teacher. I am here to help illustrate and talk about what's going on.
Okay.
So here we go. Here's a mortgage rate update. As far as where are we going, where are we at, and all that stuff, no one really knows. Economists have been confused, and they've said this is like post-World War II, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. When they say so many different things, it kind of tells you they really don't know where we're at. That's because we've never really been here before. And I do want to explain that there is a lot of cash on the sidelines right now. There's a lot of cash waiting for either the stock market to finally go down a bit or for the economy to cool. And when the economy cools, all this cash that's sitting on the sidelines will dump their money into 10-year treasury bonds as well as mortgage-backed securities. So they kind of play hand in hand. There's this love affair between 10-year treasuries and interest rates. That's why if you kind of heard people talk about 10-year treasuries, there's a reason for it. And that's because there's that blue line at 10-year treasuries and that red line are mortgage rates. So you can see they kind of really jive together. And the average rate going all the way back to 1972, because that's when this love affair began, is 1.71. So 1.71 is whatever the 10-year treasury is. When you add 1.71, that's on average where mortgage rates are typically at. However, during the pandemic, things got a little bit wider. And then right now, this is 1.71. So interest rates are higher than really where they typically would be. The reason for that is all the uncertainty. Until the Fed starts cutting rates and the economy has a more secure direction as well as inflation is coming to check, which is going to occur down the road. And when that does, this spread will squeeze. It was over 1% higher. So our interest rates were over 1% higher than they should be. Right now, it's at like 0.91. So it's almost a full percent still higher than where they should be. So if interest rates are at 7.15 today, they should be really at 6.15 today, once all that uncertainty is washed out of the system. So down the road, when we're not even doing anything and there's not even any economic news, down the road, we'll watch that spread shrink. So that's important for everybody to understand, because down the road, interest rates will come down all on their own, even more than where they're at right now. So they're kind of stuck a little high. And that's because the overall economy has been, moving at a pretty good clip. So when that happens, when the economy moves at a pretty good clip, you're between 6.5% and 8%. At 6.5%, the Fed doesn't like it. They think that it's too low. At 8%, it's too high. Where it's at right now is kind of like the Goldilocks, where it's just right. This is where the Fed likes it. Right about 7% is where they are happy. I'm not, you're not. We can't wait for rates to come down. So we need the economy to cool from where it's at right now in order for that to occur. And you can see the 10-year treasury. This is 10-year treasuries. I'm going to show you this because this is important. You should probably, there's a couple things that I'm going to ask you to do, and that's to go to CNBC 10-year. If you look at 10-year treasury and Google that 10-year and CNBC, you'll get these charts. And the reason is I want you to print these pages out, snip it out, make it a part of your presentation so that you can tell your clients, I watch the 10-year treasury because that'll tell me where interest rates are. This was as of this morning. So as of this morning, you could see that's red, down 0.028. That means that rates are coming down slightly. Not a lot, but just slightly. Now, you could see that they climbed a lot last week, and this has everything to do with the jobs report on Friday. So the jobs report on Friday was way higher than expected, and we got a jump in the 10-year treasury, and at the same time, we got a jump in rates. There you could see the same jump. If you look at that and you look at this, they did the exact same thing. So rates jumped over on Friday. And now we're at 7.17%. This was actually as of first thing this morning. This will be adjusted later on today, and probably will come in right around 7.15. So still not a big change, but we know that with 10-year treasuries, it's probably coming down. So let's see. And then somebody asked if there's any reports coming from Mojave County. Not yet. Not yet. We're tackling the bigger picture right now counties before we tackle some of the smaller ones. So there are two psychological barriers. One of them is 7%. At 7% plus, buyers back off. They don't like they just don't like a 7% plus interest rate. A lot of buyers can no longer afford, as well as homeowners. Homeowners are so happy with their low rates that when they get into the sevens, it precludes them from placing their homes on the market even more so. So that's a big threshold of 7%. The other one is, let's see, I freeze? Oh, 5%. 5% is the other threshold. Anything right below 6, 5.9999. We used to say 5.5% would move things. We've been 2 years above 5% come this August. So right around the corner, 2 years above, in the sixes on and higher. And so 5 right now sounds really, really good. The longer we wait, the better 5 sounds. So right now, just if interest rates get to 5.9999, it will make a difference in our marketplace. And you can actually see this. This is going back to January of 2022 when interest rates were 3.25 on the left. And here we are right now. Anything above that is 7%. We've actually, since April 1st, have been stuck above 7%. So this is 7% plus. We've been stuck there since April. And you can see in the a little bit to the left, from about the end of July all the way to the second week of December, we were stuck above 7%. It even eclipsed 8% in October. And so that period was 5 months straight where interest rates were stuck. And you know what? Cash entered the market as soon as the Fed changed their language. And we actually saw interest rates go from 8 to 6.5% in a heartbeat. So if we're stuck at 7, we definitely can go from 7 to 6% in a heartbeat. We just need the data to start cooperating. 6% is that other threshold. And the last time we were here with any kind of longevity, like I said, was August of 2022. It's so long ago that the further on we get, the more, boy, 5% sounds really, really good. And that's where a lot of buyers want to be, at least in 5% land. And this is the Federal Open Market Committee meeting. This is the Federal Reserve. On the right-hand side, that's Jerome Powell. He is head of the Federal Reserve. It's very important that we actually pay attention to what these people are doing, because every quarter they come out and they tell us where interest rates are going to be. Well, June, it's one of those reports when they come out that it's where they tell us where interest rates are going to go. Last time was March. Before that, it's December. It's every December is where we saw it. Now March, then we'll see it in June, then we'll see it again in September, and then again December at the end of this year. So they're actually meeting right now today, and they're meeting all the way through Wednesday. So very, very important week. What they say, what they do will really change interest rates. It doesn't sound like they're going to be cutting interest rates at all this week. However, anything that they say can move rates higher or lower. And so we're going to watch what happens, and they'll do this on Wednesday. So they have started in August of 2022 saying that they're going to inflict pain on everybody in the United States as well as companies, because they want to bring down inflation, because inflation was out of control. And so in that, what they've said is they're very, very data dependent. They kind of box themselves in a hole, because they actually should have already moved in changing the short-term rate a little bit, but they haven't even started yet. So because they haven't started, and they box themselves in a hole, they're going to kind of wait because they said that they're so data dependent. April was a month for the data that they were talking about March that stunk. That's where everything looked really positive. Everything was really strong. And as a result, we had rates that bumped all the way up to 7.5% in the month of April, 3 times. So we started off the year at 6.5, and now we're playing at 7.5 in April. Then along came May. That was last month. And it was talking about everything for April, all the data points. And all the data points came out in the month of May, and all of a sudden everything looked good. And we had interest rates come all the way down to 6.99% for a day. And then that was the end of May. Then along came June, and I was praying, I was hoping, I had my fingers crossed. I wanted the last week to be a great week because it was jobs week. It started out really strong, But you know what? I wasn't convinced. Right now, it's kind of a wait and see to see what happens in June with this week. This week is super important because last week wasn't that great of a week. It started out really strong, like I said, and it's all about jobs. Jobs week comes out the first week of every month. So last week was what they call Jobs Week. And they start with the number of job openings. Well, you can see the number of job openings was at 8.059. So it's a little over 8 million. It was at 8.5 million, and they had projected it to be at 8.3 million, and it ended up being lower. So there are fewer job openings. This is actually a good sign because prior to COVID, you can see on the left, it was in the sevens. So sevens was normal, and it got all the way up to 12 million. We had way too many job openings in 2021 and the start of 2022, and and unemployment was so low that we didn't have enough workers to fill all these positions. This is why everybody talks about we want job openings to come down, they want unemployment to come up, because it puts less pressure on inflation. That's why we are rooting for a better balance. On the right was Friday's jobs report. It was supposed to be 180,000 jobs created, instead was 272. So it was way too hot, and the markets reacted, and 10-year treasury and mortgage rates bumped up for the day. So that's why I followed it. And I knew as soon as I saw this headline, I was actually kind of upset because I'm rooting for rates to come down, because I think the real estate industry has taken it on the chin ever since 2022. Unemployment actually rose. So we've gone from an unemployment rate that was at like 3.8 just a couple months ago to 4%. So things are starting to slow in unemployment. This is actually some good news to the report that came on Friday, but it didn't outweigh the number of jobs created. So that's one area that we need to focus on. So those are so we look at jobs week, first week of every month. Then there's inflation. There are actually two different inflation prints that everybody follows. One of them is called Consumer Price Index, CPI. It's just a basket of goods, everything we do to purchase, from groceries to gasoline to insurance to real estate to cars. Everything is lumped up into this CPI. And we don't really look at core because the Fed, if they change rates, can't change the fuel prices, and they can't change food prices. So they pull out the volatility of that, and they call it core. And what they're looking for is this thing to come down to 2%. The most recent read was 3.6%. In April, it actually rose a little bit for core, but then last month it came down. We get a new one of these on Wednesday, the same day that the Fed is coming out. So Wednesday is going to be a huge day for rates. So we can either have rates that really go up, we can have rates that really go down, or we can have rates that just go sideways. So watching what happens to rates on Wednesday is an important day. But this CPI is actually the more popular of the two in inflation indices. And this one is actually broken. It has this shelter component that's broken, and they say it's going to eventually catch up, but it has been awful. And we don't even like it in economics land. Instead, we like something called PCE, personal consumption expenditures. And this comes out at the end of the month. So while CPI really moves the markets, this is the one that the Fed actually likes. And so we're going to follow it, because once the Fed gets what they want, which they're kind of getting, because core is 2.8%. You could see those purple dots. Each dot is the monthly reading for core, and it's slowly coming down, making its way to 2%. It'll eventually get there. It is absolutely fine. Do not have my concerns. But that last mile getting down to 2% is just going to take some time. Just understand that. So that's important. So we talked about jobs, we talked about inflation, which comes out on Wednesday, retail sales. Retail sales is also important because this comes out and you don't even know why all of a sudden interest rates changed. And that's because in this last report was for April, and April was a bust for retail sales. It was actually flat for the month and was expected to be higher. So because it was less than expectations, all of a sudden, and then the prior 2 months were revised less, this really moved the market that day. So there are rate cuts in the future, and there's a lot of goofballs either on Wall Street or doing YouTube channels talking about how rates are going to stay high forever, and they're even going to go higher, and say all the ridiculous things. And of course, there were supposed to be 3 cuts. We know we're running out of room. There are only a handful of of meetings left for the year. They meet every 6 weeks. So we've gone from 3 most likely to 2. And there are some knuckleheads that are saying 1 and even other knuckleheads that are saying 0. There are economic headwinds out there that are going to slow the economy and allow them to do these rate cuts down the road. One of them being the personal savings rate of all consumers across the United States. It right now is at a rate that is half of where we were prior to COVID. And it actually goes all the way back to 2009. So we're not saving enough. And as far as the excess savings from the pandemic stimulus packages, we ran out of our stimulus package money, which was fueling a lot of 2023 with everything being so rosy because people still had extra money. And that is now gone as of the first quarter of this year. And that's right here. So you can see that was as of February. And this is total credit card debt. It's come down a little bit. It's been spiking, but it comes down typically every first quarter because everybody looks at how much they spent during the holidays and said, uh-oh, I need to slow my roll. And then after the second quarter, they go, we're done. And then it keeps on going and we start spending again. And so this has actually been spiking. So we're not saving as much. We don't have excess savings and we're putting it all on plastic. So as a result, we need to know that the transition to serious delinquency, that people are getting more and more behind. The serious delinquency, you can actually see on the bottom are mortgages and HELOCs and student loans. Those aren't anything to worry about. What to worry about is credit cards. If I draw a line across there, the last time it was at this level was the start of 2008. So all of a sudden, this doesn't mean we're going into the Great Recession. It just means it is a real problem, a headwind for the economy. The other one is automobile debt. That too is the transition to serious delinquency is at it later on the first quarter of 2008. So it too is rising at kind of a rate that we don't like to see in economics land. So we know that there's going to be a slowdown in the future. So as far as the overall economy, something is going to give and break. When something breaks, the overall economy will slow, and the safe haven is, remember that kid with all the cash, all the extra cash on the sidelines? They're going to run to 10-year treasuries and mortgage-backed securities or interest rates. So when that happens, when the economy slows down, we will watch interest rates come down like crazy. So we will watch it once everything shows slowing. Interest rates will fall all the way down towards 6%. They'll probably bounce off that 6%. So that's a good time to lock when we see some negative news on the economy like that. We'll see it come down to 6% and probably bounce in between the range of 6 to 6.5% until something slows further. So when is that going to happen is the big question. I don't know. I am not a good fisherman. I don't know kind of what I'm doing. I could barely bait a hook. So as a result, I don't know when it's going to happen. Nobody in economics land really, really knows when this is going to occur. I wanted it to occur during the spring. It didn't. Second fiddle was most likely summer for us. That was what our forecast was between spring and summer. Summer just began. So we have 3 more months. And I think that's when it's going to occur. There's still an offshoot that it happens during the fall. So we're very, very data dependent, like I said. And one of the things that you should all be you should all be downloading, and I'll get you guys a copy of this presentation. It's called FX. It's an economic calendar, and one of the best ones is at fxstreet.com. And if you Google the term economic calendar, fxstreet.com, you'll get to this page. And this page, then you go into the filter and you get rid of you clear everything, and you just toggle United States. And then you scroll down a little bit further and you just want moderate priority and high priority, the volatility for whatever economic point is released. And what I'm going to show you here is this is every single thing that happens in June that will move interest rates. Well, we already had jobs week. That was last week. That this week is right here. And I'm just showing you where we are right now. Is Wednesday is the big day. You can see right above that was Friday. That was Jobs Friday. That moved the markets. There's a lot of red. And why is there a lot of red? Because I told you there's CPI comes out and the Federal Open Market Committee, the Fed, comes out and speaks. They release their their projections for rates. So it's a very volatile day. So know that when you wake up on Wednesday, we'll get the CPI report. It'll already move markets, but there will be some hesitation until the Fed speaks. And he speaks at 11 a.m. Our time. So know that at right around noon, you'll know exactly where interest rates are at for the day. As far as all the economic data points. You can see there's more economic data points coming up. There's not as much red. There's a lot of red at the beginning of the month, and then every week there's a couple things that can really move interest rates. I think that everybody should make that. You should print out the economic calendar, make it a part of your buyer's book, show the 10-year treasury, make it a part of your buyer's book. And also, Mortgage News Daily is an app that you should download because it talks about what's going on with interest rates on a daily basis. Why? Why do we care so much about interest rates? Because our buyers care about interest rates. And if we can kind of tell them what's going on a daily basis, or whenever they're in your car, or whenever you're talking to them at the office or at a property, now what we're doing is we're on their side and they feel like we know everything about what's going on out there. We don't know everything, so that's why we gotta partner with different people like Rock Title and Mortgage and some mortgage representatives that will help boost us. And we should have pictures of them in our buyers package too, so they understand exactly what it is that we do. So we're leveling up on our buyer side of the game because things are changing with how things are done in real estate land, right? So the housing market in Maricopa, all the housing stock together across the United States is extremely strong. So the housing stock, all homes, you know what? They've been built for years on very, very strong credit. Also, very great jobs across the United States, low fixed payments that they've locked into that are a great hedge against rising rents and inflation. They have record tappable equity, which means they can tap their equity and still have 20% equity in their homes. Record equity rich, which means there's a lot of Americans that have 50% plus equity in their homes, even with a loan. And then there's a record number of owners that own their homes free and clear. So that is the recipe for the housing market not to crash. It will not crash because of how strong the housing stock is. And our housing market is following the normal way that the market unfolds every year. Spring is the strongest month in terms of demand. Then we have summer is second. Then we have autumn, and winter is third. The slowest market is actually the holidays. The slowest month, December. Fewest number of homes come on the market in December. All markets, as well as demand, rides down to its lowest number of new pending sales in the month of December. And where are we at right now? This is summer. I know that summer doesn't really begin until the 20th of this month, but my kids got out of school. I don't know about your kids, but as soon as my kids get out of school, it's called distractions. There's a lot of distractions. It will slow down the clip of buyers just a little bit. So what ends up happening is supply actually slowly rises and demand slowly falls. So during the summertime, the market starts to feel like it's slowing a little bit. At the beginning of the year, it feels like it's speeding up like crazy. During the spring, it's still speeding up and then hits the speediest point of the year, typically during the spring. And then we get to summer, and that's where things feel like they're slowing down a little bit. And that's because supply rises until it finally peaks and demand is slowly falling. So, and our housing market is made up of two opposite forces, one that favors buyers, one that favors sellers. Supply scarcity but favors sellers. An affordability crisis favors buyers. So when we get more supply, sellers don't have as much pull. When interest rates come down, affordability gets a little bit better. Buyers don't have as much pull. So right now we're going to go over low inventory. Low inventory, it has been hard in the entry level. Those first-time home buyers are having the hardest time securing a home, and I get it. It's been difficult, and that's because of scarcity. Across the United States, in the month of April, we haven't had May's release yet, is really low. But compare that to where we were prior to the Great Recession, and this I'm actually pointing to 2006. We knew in autumn of 2005 that the market was slowing because we had way too many homes on the market. In 2006, we had 4 million homes on the market, and in 2007 and in 2008. That's called a supply glut. there were so many homes on the market. And I was actually surprised to see how many homes were foreclosures and distressed in Maricopa and Clark when we recently did all the research that goes into that. You compare the supply glut to supply scarcity. Supply scarcity is on the right-hand side, 1,210,000 homes. And you can see, if you draw a line across, shoot, we had a lot more homes prior to this, going all the way back to 1982. So per capita, the number of homes available per 100,000 people is at its smallest point of all time. There's not enough homes available. And that's a problem. And in Maricopa County, I'm only going back to 2022, January 2022, when I started at the beginning of 22, and now we have more. We have more properties on the market right now than we did in 2021, where we hit a low, and at the start of 2022. But and you can see the start of 2022. That's the red line. You had less than 4,000 homes in Maricopa County. That was ridiculous. So we're at right now, as of May 30th, so nearly 2 weeks ago, because this Thursday we actually snap the numbers again. I'll give you an update as to where we are today. On May 30th, we were at 13,467. That was up 1% or up 71 homes. Last year, we were at 8,728. That's the blue line. We had 35% fewer homes on the market last year at this time, 4,740 fewer homes. And today we're at 13,329. It actually went down a little bit. We'll see if by Thursday this at least rides up to even, but it's looking like it's kind of flatlining. We'll have to see if that continues. And this is where we think the active inventory will go. It'll kind of go flat. It'll rise a little bit as we get further into the summer. And then we think that the peak will actually come a little bit early. Typically for Maricopa, it is between September and right before Thanksgiving. That's where we hit a peak. It's actually a little bit later than most markets because people think that the snowbirds come and they're going to purchase during this time period. But now Phoenix Maricopa is way too big with lots of families, and families don't like to move at that time. They like to move, be in escrow in the spring, and close during the summer. So that's why you see a peak in demand during the springtime. And so we actually think that the inventory is going to come down a bit towards the end of the year as rates start to come down. Now, as far as all the homeowners collectively together, they are hunkering down in their houses because of low rates. They're kicking back. They're not placing their homes on the market. And that's because in the state of Arizona, and I take this from the National Mortgage Database, and this is through all of 2023. We actually do this analytics on a quarterly basis because it's released on a quarterly basis. They just have through the fourth quarter of last year. 79% of all Arizonians that actually have a mortgage have an interest rate at 5% or lower. 62% have an interest rate at 4% or lower, and 23% have an interest rate at 3% or lower. And I often ask in the audience is filled with real estate agents and mortgage people and title and everybody who has an interest rate less than 3% or less. And there's a lot of hands that go up. And then I ask who is planning on making a move that just rose their hand within the next few years. And before I got no hands 6 months ago, a year ago, now I'm getting hands. And why am I starting to get hands right now? Because even if you have a low interest rate, people still want to move. They have this desire to move. Their family's getting bigger. They just got married. They have kids. They want to move to an area that has more kids. So they're tired of waiting. And you can see that once rates start coming down, there's going to be a lot more people that are going to go, okay, the rates getting a lot better, I'm jumping in. So you can imagine what rates coming down is going to do with the number of homes that come on the market. And we're already seeing that green shoot so far this year. The blue line was last year. We had such a few number of homes coming on the market. And you could see towards the end, October, November, and December, it was very similar to 2022 when rates got all the way up to 7%. But this year is the purple line, and the purple line is doing much better this year than last year. I mean, it's not as good as where we were up towards the top. That green line that it's so close to is actually the COVID year, 2020. And so you can see how the spaghetti up towards the top is very, very similar on a month-to-month basis. But we still have fewer homes on the market than what is normal for this time of the year. It's actually up 17% or extra 5,524 sell signs compared to last year, the blue line. So we placed more homes on the market than last year, which last year kind of established a bottom. We knew, and this is what we forecasted, that there would be more homeowners coming on. So, and this is with interest rates that have been kind of sticky above 7%. You can imagine that once interest rates dive below 7%, it's going to invite more homeowners to place their homes on the market, because the difference between where people's rates are and where the prevailing rate of the day will start to shrink, and it's going to encourage a lot of people to place their homes on the market. So we have more homes coming on the market. And you can actually see on a month-to-month basis, actually show the number of homes coming on the market compared to the 3-year average prior to COVID, 2017, 18, and 19, when things were more normal. And you could see this is the initial COVID lockdown. In 2020, we were actually missing 1,900 for sale signs, missing 2% for the entire year. And in 2022, it was down 6%, missing 5,700 for sale signs. And in 2023, it was missing 28% of the market compared to prior to COVID, over 28,000 for sale signs. And so far this year, January through May, we're missing 20% fewer for sale signs than prior to COVID, missing a little over 9,000 for sale signs. And you can see this year compared to last year. And you can see that there were more homes that were not on the market last year compared to this year. So it's looking a bit better. And so we talked about low supply, let's talk about low demand. And that is just because interest rates are so high. When you do the calculations, it's a bit shocking for a lot of potential buyers, and they will hold off and wait for rates to come down into the 6s is where a lot of buyers are. And then others below 6.5 and others below 6. So you can imagine as rates go down, that more and more people will want to purchase. And this is the national payment to income ratio. This is if the national income, how much of their monthly income is being devoted to if they were to purchase today, given today's interest rates. And it's kind of high right now. As a matter of fact, it's so high that if you draw a line across, the last time we were here was in the 1980s at 35.9%. And for Maricopa County, it's at, in order to afford the median sales price home with 20% down, you actually have to earn, as a household income, $125,000. So that's kind of high for the middle of the road house. That's the median house. So it's kind of expensive, and it's like this across the board for all metros across the United States. And you could see the impact on affordability. We had 8% interest rates in October of last year. And if you were looking at a $3,000 per month payment with 20% down, just principal and interest, you were looking at a $511,000 house. Well, when rates make their way to 7%, now you're looking at an extra $52,000 house, $563,000 house. And you can see once we get to 6%, now you're looking at a $626,000 house, or into the $660,000 house. So what it does is it just opens up the buyer pool. More and more buyers can now afford to purchase. That's what's going to happen once rates drop. And you can imagine what will happen once rates drop. Yes, it'll invite more homeowners, but it will invite a lot more demand, outpacing the number of homes that come on the market. So that is why I say now is a time to purchase, because there will be even more demand, and it will eat into any of this inventory that we've been building over the course of this year so far. And this is demand. This is the last 30 days snapshot of demand, and this is where we are right now. We, of course, already peaked for the year. The peak occurred in the month of April. That's typically where it peaks. May 30th, we were at 5,225 pending sales. That's down 9%, or down 503 pending sales. And last year we were at 5,713. That's the blue line. That's 9% higher, an extra 488 pending sales. And today it's at 5,140. It went down 2%. So it went down slightly. Now, where is demand going to go? You can see we already peaked. The peak typically occurs between March and the end of May. And the end of May, this should say the end of May. It doesn't show you the end of May, but should be between at the end of May. And that peak, it happens because then the kids get out of school. So that's where it typically peaks. And then where are we going to go from here? It looks like it's going to come down a little bit, but then remain flat. And we could see demand actually rise up with rates dropping. And that is what we're anticipating to happen later on this year. So demand actually picking up. So what is the speed of the market? how fast is the market going right now? So this is the expected market time. Place your home on the market. When are you opening up escrow? Or when are you becoming a pending sale? And this is where it's at right now. And you could actually see that the Phoenix expected market time May 30th is at 77 days. It went up 3 days in a 2-week period of time. It was actually the biggest rise so far this year from the middle of May to the end of May. And last year we were at 46 days, the blue line. So you're right. If you thought that last year at this time it was a lot busier, that's correct. You are correct. That is the difference in what you're feeling in the marketplace. It feels a little more sluggish. Today, it rose slightly because inventory came down a little bit and demand came down a little bit more. So the expected market time today is 78 days. Like I said, we'll snap the numbers on Thursday evening and have our latest report. So the expected market time is going to slowly go until it's going to continue to rise. But because we're going to have rates that will be more favorable at the end of the year, we'll see the expected market time actually dip later on this year. So that's what we're anticipating to happen. And right now, in many markets, many price ranges, it kind of feels like a seller's market, but in other markets, it kind of feels a little bit more balanced. And this is taken off the Maricopa County report, each of the cities. It has a breakdown. It gives you the number of available homes, what's the demand like for the last 30 days, and what's the market time right now. And this is where we are in Phoenix. I'm going to show you. Phoenix is at 64 days. That was 64 days 4 weeks ago. It's now at 69 days. So slight cooling. You don't really feel it from a week to week basis, but I see it in the numbers. Mesa, it was at 60 days, is at 68 days today. That's the difference in 4 weeks. Scottsdale from 99 to 113 days. That's more about price. Chandler is probably the hottest market, went from 40 days, which is really, really hot, to 45 days, which is still pretty hot. Glendale from 54 to 63. Tempe from 53 to 53, it stayed the same. Paradise Valley from 164 to 206. Fountain Hills from 84 to 95 days. Cave Creek, 126 to 119, the only market that cooled from 4 weeks ago, but still 119 is kind of slow. And Carefree from 80 to 100 days. So you pick your markets, you kind of need to know what the velocity is. Tempe is, of course, different than Carefree or Paradise Valley, so you really need to know your specific market. And as far as luxury is concerned, luxury is the top 10% of the market. And for Maricopa, it's 1 million plus. And that's the threshold. And you can see it at 1 million, it's now at 108 days. 752 millions at 94. And the hottest market is the lowest range. And you can see as the ranges get higher, it takes longer to sell a house. And a $1.5 to $3 million house takes 140 days. And for those people that have a 3 million plus, it's riding up. It's taking a little bit longer. It's making its way towards a year to sell. So many markets, the upper range typically takes 300 to 400 days in order to achieve success. And this is the number of luxury sales above $1 million in all of Maricopa County. And so far, it's actually up 24%. And that's because the month of April was a big month for 1 million plus in Maricopa County. It's actually up 371 compared to last year. That's the blue bars. So doing much better this year than last year. And it's a pretty strong year for Maricopa County luxury. So the market overview looks like this. We're at, this is Phoenix closed sales, Maricopa County Phoenix closed sales for all of the market. And you're looking, it's actually down 3% for the year. And that's because the month of March was down a bit. But each of the other months kind of like right within a hair of the prior year. We're down 605 closed sales for the entire county of Maricopa. So, and I already gave you what the shortage solution is, and that's just rates need to fall. And rates need to fall, demand will rise, and the further rates fall, the more demand rises. There will be more homes that come on the market, but demand will outpace the number of homes coming on the market, and we will get values rise at a faster clip. The time is right now to purchase. And if you're in search for an affordable home, you know what? It sounds familiar. It sounds like a lot of millennials and Gen Zs are talking about this. So my son, Brennan, who works for us, actually found a few different articles. This one's from the Sacramento Bee, Sunday, March 1st, 1981. And listen to this. So that's when the baby boomers, the strongest demographic patch of all time for the United States, they were all coming to the age of a first-time home buyer. And what they said is what you'll find is an enormous pent-up demand waiting to be served, but finding no service at all. They're a huge group, the boom babies of the 1950s, and they desperately want houses. Well, that is if they can get the financing, which in turn is the greatest challenge to the home mortgage industry today. Sounds like millennials and Gen Zs today. So that is something to keep in mind, that it will get better down the road when interest rates do fall. And as far as there are different, I hate medians. Medians are a horrible gauge. I hate even talking about medians. You will rarely hear me talk about median sales prices. I like house price indices. I don't like Case-Shiller. That one came out last week. There are others that I'm a fan of. Freddie Mac is one that I like. Another one is Zillow, but I don't want to quote Zillow. You understand, I'm not a big fan of Zillow overall. So I quote Freddie Mac. And Freddie Mac, you could actually see this. So how are houses doing in Maricopa County? Well, values are actually up 7% year over year. This is important to understand, and this is through April. It comes out at the end of each month. So this is up 7% year over year. It's actually up 0.7% month over month. And I'm pointing to January, February, March, April. You can see all positive. And it's only down 1.1% from the 2022 peak. It was down a lot. And now as 2023 unfolded and now 2024, it's actually very, very close, within a hair of where we were in June or May of 2022 when we hit a peak for Maricopa County. So all that it went down, it's almost all the way back to where it was prior. So almost to that all-time high. And as far as Maricopa County distressed closed sales, this, I was searching for it, found it for Clark. I did all the research, and this is in the number of foreclosures and short sales that closed for the month of April is at 11. And we haven't done May yet. We have to get to the 15th of the month in order for the data to look really good. And if you compare that to the same time in 2019, we were at 62. You weren't even looking for distressed homes back in 2019. So you shouldn't be looking for them, definitely not in 2024. And you could see that during part of the market, we got to 6,000 distressed closed sales, either short sales or foreclosures. So at 11, this is a great chart to show all those people that are looking for a foreclosure or a short sale, because they don't need to be wasting anybody's time, including yours. And anyways, even those that are delinquent, 60%, 3 in 5 seriously past due mortgages have at least 20% equity. That means that 60% have at least 20% equity. That means they can sell their homes. So meet with Rock Title and get a list of all these people so that you can go knock on their doors if they have enough equity in their homes, because they'll be able to walk away with a fat, juicy proceeds check, and you'll walk away with a commission check along the way and look like Superman or Superwoman. So that's pretty huge. I voted. So this is a question I always get: does voting affect the election, affect our housing market? And the answer is absolutely not. And you'll see lots of articles that will talk about yes, that it does, and it's just not true. The act of actually physically voting does not change things. Now, who we elect can change how real estate unfolds, but the act of voting, can you imagine if we had interest rates in the 5%? Do you think you're going to have buyers that are going to say, hang on, just wait a hot minute. I want to wait a few weeks to see how this election plays out? There's just no way that that's going to happen. I have not found it in the data. So we do a housing debrief typically every Thursday, sometimes on Friday. So on YouTube, it's a video. It's the latest and greatest. So go to Reports on Housing on YouTube, and you can, and if you have knucklehead consumers, buyers, sellers, family members that are saying something, have them look at this so that they understand what's going on in the housing market. And we do have a podcast called Let's Talk Housing. So if you search the term Let's Talk Housing, Reports on Housing, anywhere you like to listen to a podcast, I listen to them on Spotify. We are housed there. You can listen to us. Brendan said, where's your podcast, Dad? I didn't have one, and now we've just recorded our 23rd episode, and that will be released tomorrow. And when you subscribe to the Housing Report, you get a weekly text message every Friday. Now, the report comes out every 2 weeks, but even prior to the report coming out, we were going to tell you where the inventory is at, where demand's at, how it's changed week over week. and then where expected market time is, how it's changing. So you'll know the ebbs and flows. And this comes out every week. The report comes out every other week. So there are 2 reports every month, but there are 4 of these text messages, and there's a link on it so that you can download this graphic with that update text message. And reportsonhousing.com, that's where you go to subscribe. There's a bunch of links at the bottom. We email these out to you lots of ways for you to repurpose. We have a video for you to watch and a pamphlet so that you could see how you could repurpose it, because we've had a lot of people do that. Comes out every 2 weeks, $15 per month or $150 per year. And the coupon code is ROC. You get the first month free. And I don't know, we made it within an hour here, so it was exactly an hour of presenting. And I don't know if there are any questions. If you do, you can definitely ask them. The only face that I see on here is Justin, so and now Troy's.
Awesome information. I just loved it. So thank you, Stephen. Very interesting.
My pleasure. Yeah, I've been doing it for Realty One Group for years, dating all the way back to when I started the report in Realty One Group offices right here in SoCal. All righty.
We have a question from Allegra. It says, what was the app you recommend to see interest rates?
That's called, let me make sure I have the right name of it. It's actually, it's Mortgage News Daily. So I download CNBC and Mortgage News Daily. And Mortgage News Daily, you feel like you're kind of getting the weeds, but when you read it, they kind of put it in layman's terms. So you go, oh, that's why rates are moving today. Oh, I didn't know that. And they do it on a daily basis. So after a while, you're going to become so educated that when you talk to your buyer, you're going to sound like, wow, my agent really knows rates. And so it's just a huge app. I follow it all the time. It's important. Why do I follow all this stuff? I'm a housing analyst. Interest rates matter. And we are so rate sensitive. I can't wait to get under 7%.
Do you have any more questions? Right, now's your time, guys. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh,
I loved it, Stephen. It was really great. Thank you so much.
And I know it's recorded, so I'll probably watch it again because the information was there's so much in such a short period of time.
I've had Mortgage News Daily on my phone for about 6 months, and I tell everybody I know, all my clients, to put it on there too. I love it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good for you.
Yep.
See, that's an agent making a difference for her.
No, I'm not an agent. I'm a rock title person.
Oh, even better. That's great. So you can articulate it to the agents.
Exactly.
Good for you. Good job.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So this is Rosie Andrews with Scottsdale. So now that we are facing this challenge with not having a commission and so forth, or not having it, but negotiating it and I'm a numbers person as well, how are we going to be moving forward with calculating prices and how much the house was sold for if we don't know that data of how much we negotiated? You know, kind of like, how are you going to be integrating that information?
You know what? Sellers don't care. They want to get the last comp, and they're not going to be giving away the farm because all of a sudden there's a change in rate. And also what we actually think is going to happen, and we've already heard from a lot of agents that are out there, there's a lot of agents that are still talking to their consumers, talking to them about the importance of paying some sort of a commission. So I actually think that that's the way that the overall, if you want to expose your home as there are more homes on the market and you want to expose it, and especially in luxury, you're in Scottsdale, you want it to be exposed to as many people as possible. You don't want to limit that pool because now all of a sudden the buyer has to pay some commission for their agent. So you're going to open it up to as many people as possible by offering a compensation. If you don't, I think that you're limiting your pool. So that's why overall, as we unfold over the coming, it's going to be a little rocky at first come August, but down the road, you're going to see that there's still going to be compensation on the buy side. It's just not going to be articulated through the MLS. And that's because the good old fair market system is going to work its way out. And we are a resilient industry. We will figure things out, and so will the sellers. They want to maximize their profits. And in order to do that, I think that that's the way it's going to unfold. We're not going to see all of a sudden values come down because of this settlement. It's not in the cards. If I was going to sell my home, no way am I going to say, hey, you know what? I don't have to pay this commission, so I'm going to be reducing my how much I'm going to be offering. That's just not going to happen. I don't see it, but we'll have to see how it plays out. But we'll be right there on the sidelines, watching everything really closely, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, you betcha. Great question.
I have another appointment. I got to run, but this was awesome. I wish I could stay for the Vegas one. It was awesome.
Hey, Stephen, I wanted to ask real quick, just to make sure. I took screenshots because that's who I am.
Yes, good for you.
And my picture is not, my camera doesn't work. That's why you don't see
Yes,
me.
no
But can I post those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Oh, for
Thank
sure.
you. That's all.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure.
Stephen, I was going to
Yes.
ask you, we have a lot of foreclosures, like 177 pre-foreclosures in Sedona alone. Are you not seeing that in the Valley?
Not seeing it yet. Not in the numbers, not the ones that make it all the way to the market. A lot of these go to the court step, and that's as far as they're going to make it. You guys have a lot of cash in play in Arizona. You have a few of the markets that actually have the most cash in the US. So that means there's cash waiting to pounce on these things. They don't make it to the MLS. And there will always be foreclosures. There will always be people that get in pickles, even in the best of times. And I'd argue that right now is kind of one of those times if you're a homeowner, but people still get in pickles. So but there's so much cash sitting on the sidelines waiting to do something. And Phoenix, Maricopa, as well as Clark, actually has a target on their backs for a lot of cash. But I'd still knock on those doors. I'd still knock on those doors. A lot of those people have equity. So do the research. Get with your Rock Title representative and do the research.
The smaller and large.
So that's their minimum. They need to have at least 20% equity in order to sell their house. Otherwise, it just goes to like short
No,
sale.
it could be less. 20% was that threshold where they said 3 and 5. I would say that if they had 10% equity, it makes the argument once it starts getting too low, if they're in a pickle, they might not want to do it. But if they have 20% equity, shoot, it would be just absolutely foolish for them to walk away from a giant net proceeds check. All righty.
All right, guys. I do think we have to wrap up because we do have the Nevada one in 20 minutes. So
Yes.
thank you guys all so much for joining us. Thank you so much for hosting this class, and well, I'll see you in 20 minutes. And
Okay, see you.
This class will get posted on our YouTube, I believe, and it should be up by tomorrow if we do post it.
Sounds good. Have a good
All
one.
right. Thank you guys all so much. See you on the next one.
Bye-bye.